Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Welcome to the Fly With Us podcast. This podcast is bringing the art of conversation, self-love, self-care, mental health care and protection, life lessons, love lessons, and everything in between. Today we're going to talk about each one to one. I'm your girl, Lady Bounce.
And I am Picket Fence. Today's Mindfulness Minute is called Leaving a Legacy. I leave the world better than it was when I found it. I think of generations yet to be born, and I direct my life for their benefit. At the Cathedral of St. John the Divine in Manhattan, I once had the privilege of seeing stone carvers at work on this magnificent structure. The figures of saints were taking shape from raw slab stone. Many of the artisans, I were told, were volunteering their time just to be able to contribute to something so vast. It is so rare these days that we see people thinking in decades or centuries. Everything seems to be about finding the next big score. The future means next week, not next generation. Everyone leaves behind a legacy of some kind. What will yours be? Bring into your heart love, generosity, and goodwill. Picture yourself getting bolder in the pursuit of the common good. Expand your consciousness to include generations not yet born, and think of what you would want for them. Word up.
Word up, indeed. That was a whole word. Like, man.
Yeah, that was the show right there.
Yeah, that was the show. Like, we don't even. I feel like we shouldn't say nothing else. We should just leave it at that. Hey, because exactly what you said in the Mindfulness Minute is what I'm always saying, is that we as people seem to live temporary lifestyles. We live temporary moments, and that's why you see relationships not lasting as long as they used to, or you see kids coming from broken homes, or daddy got a baby with this one and he got a baby with this one, and then mama got another baby with this one over here, because we're not thinking in terms of long-term future longevity. What's next? What's on the next page? We're looking at the next paragraph. And I don't know why us humans are like that, because we've had history to tell us, people of color especially, that because of things that happened, to us so long ago, it still affects us now. So you would think that with that mind state and us knowing that we will be doing things now that will affect future generations in a positive way, because our past was so tumultuous and it still affects us in a negative way now.
Definitely. And like you said, we've said this before and talked about it before, and I can't remember exactly what sparked this show. Basically, because we talk about it all the time, but I think what it was, I think you were watching the news, and as always, you happen to seems like you see one of your students that you once had, maybe back in elementary or something like that. They're in some type of trouble, or they're just not progressing, and it made us think about, a lot of people, they're quick to say there's nothing for these kids to do, and then we thought about all these dozens of mentoring programs that we have. How come they're not really working?
Well, I won't say they're not working. I'm going to say, how come they're not working long term? Because they're working for the moment, but that's it. It's only for the moment. So it still goes back to what you were saying in the Mindfulness Minute about, it's a temporary situation. It's a temporary fix. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole, as opposed to doing full surgery to remove the bullet, repairing the skin, then stitching it up and putting a Band-Aid on it, because that's a long-term healing, of that wound that's taking place. And when it comes to these programs that we have lots of them, but then they don't last. Or in the case of what you were talking about, one of my former students was killed, and there was somebody who got on Facebook, I can't even remember who was like, oh, I used to have him in my mentor program, and he used to be in my after school club. Okay, so what happened? Why didn't you follow him? Why didn't you follow up? Or why didn't you do more to make sure that he didn't get himself in a situation where he was going to be murdered? Now, That's not to take the onus off of the person who actually did the murder, because it's on them. Yeah, they made the choice
Exactly.
to, pull a gun for whatever reason and to use it. However, maybe if we have programs and positive things going on, that even that person who was the shooter could have been involved in the program as well, because the program would have been going on. It would have been some longevity in the program to help more than just when they're 7 or 8 years old, or when they're 9 or 10 years old. What happens when they're not 10 anymore and they can't participate in this program anymore because it's only for 10 and under?
Right. Right, and that was one of the things that we were discussing when we were talking about this, is that a lot of programs are just for a certain small block. I see a lot of 3rd, 4th graders, or maybe 5th and 6th graders, and so it led us to make a list of different things that would help programs be more beneficial for the long term. And one of those things, that the first thing that comes to my mind, is that mentoring has to be a long term thing. Let's say you get those kids at 3rd and 4th grade. You have to follow those kids all the way through high school. Once that kid gets to high school, they should be able to start mentoring that 3rd or 4th grader again. And when that kid that is in high school goes on to college, the initial mentor should still be following them through college, being right there by their side, helping them with their needs, guiding them still even through college and even through their first job. And that kid is now in college, he's already started mentoring back. So we just keep the cycle going on this continued mentoring. That's one thing that would make mentoring better.
I agree with that, because as you have those high school students reach back and grab a younger student to mentor them, then they become part of your alumni pool. So as those kids cycle through, then you have more kids that cycle through, and then they reach back, and then they become the alumni, and it continues. If you think about your favorite high school, your favorite college, and the money that is brought in by the alumni, they have alumni nights and alumni cheer competitions and alumni football games and things like that. Why don't we have an alumni situation for mentoring and for mentoring groups? Because more than likely, these kids need a mentor for life.
Yes.
If you think about yourself, when you say you get a business idea tomorrow and you say, I'm going to start this business, what's the first thing somebody tells you to do? Go get you a mentor. Go get a mentor that's in that same field, that's been through the same struggle, that can help walk you through the process. So if we as adults need and use mentors, why do we seem to think that kids don't need a mentor once they hit 10 years old?
Right.
Because really, when they hit about 13, that's when the whole world kicks in for them. Because at 13, they're able to go places on their own. They're allowed to hang out with their friends more. So their peer groups take on more of a mentoring kind of a situation where they're learning from them and less dependent on their parents. So that's when they need that positive push of a mentor even more, because now they're exposed to the whole world in a different way that their parents can't always protect them from or intercept, especially since we all have one of these in our pocket. So since we have the whole world, the whole internet in our pocket, then we're allowing kids to be exposed to far greater things than we were exposed to when we were their ages. So that is why they need caring adults and young adults, not necessarily 40 and 50-year-old people. They need younger adults that are somewhat in their age bracket.
Yeah, someone that they can more relate to. Yeah, someone that they can more relate to. When you say you have someone so much older, they're too far separated. And that's why it's important for that high school student to go back to that 3rd or 4th grader and watch them grow. And then it's just the cycle continues and continues. And then you start seeing these same groups of people becoming a true tribe. Like you said, the alumnus and the alumnus that you've pushed through to be successful through this mentoring, they're going to come back and help your mentoring program continue to be successful. And like you said, with everybody having a computer in their pocket, there's so much, as I say all the time, programming that is
Yes.
anti-education, anti-stability, anti-emotional intelligence, anti-everything. We're fighting a war with sticks and stones, while everybody else has chemical warfare against us. And these mentoring programs for mentoring programs to work, we need to start thinking about things like mental health. Mental health is a problem that we know is running wild right now. And I think that every mentoring program should have a mental health component to it. Whether if you have a therapist on board or a therapist that's volunteering just with the program to analyze situations that's going on. And we need to stop acting like mental health isn't a problem anymore. We need to stop acting like the old trope of black people. We don't need therapists. We need therapists. We do need it. We definitely do. Because we aren't raised from emotional intelligence from the start. So that when we become, like you said, 13, 14, and all of this world is hitting us in the face, we don't properly know how to handle it. Especially when you already have things that are played against you coming from single parent homes, living in food deserts, living in horrible environments. When you have all that stuff already, how can you concentrate on school? When you're not eating nutritious food that is giving you the essentials that your body and brain needs, how do you focus in school? How do you move in life? So, that's another thing that mentoring programs, they need people who are very well knowledge in nutrition and physical health.
I agree.
So what are some other things you think that would help when it comes to mentoring the youth?
We have to, I know one thing that I see adults doing, especially in my profession, we have to stop acting like we weren't young, dumb kids once.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to stop acting like we didn't do dumb things, or we didn't do things without properly thinking it through and thinking out the consequences of it all. The only difference is we didn't have social media to pressure us into doing goofy things, and everybody wasn't filming everything and screaming out world star because you wanted to go viral and be famous. But a lot of adults sit and they're very judgmental on our youth, which is why they can't mentor our youth and really take them under their wings and help them, because they're so busy thumbing their nose up at them and the goofy things that they do. Like, we didn't do stupid stuff too. We just didn't get caught, or we didn't have social media to catch it all.
Right, or broadcast or telling ourselves.
Right, broadcast and telling ourselves. I'm sure if I sat down with my mom and told her all the things that I did that she didn't know, it would probably blow her mind.
Yeah,
like any parent.
Yeah, like any parent
situation. But I see it a lot when, especially since I work, in a school and I work in a high school, especially, that some of the adults that we encounter that come in off the street that want to bring in programs to our school, they want to bring these programs in, and these programs are great. But then when I'm asking them, well, what's your long-term plan? What's your longevity plan for this program? You're going to come in here for 6 weeks. We're going to pay you X amount of dollars for a consultant fee. And then what happens when you leave in 6 weeks? Where's the sustainability in your plan?
Yeah.
Where's, what happens after that? And then you have these people that come in with that mindset. They do this 6 weeks or whatever. And during that time that they're working with our kids, they're, appalled by them and turning their nose up at them, at the stuff that they're saying. So the kids don't feel like they can trust you, and they don't want to open up to you and tell you things because they feel like you're judging them. And then you're judging them like you didn't do dumb stuff yourself. So there's, that's just another barrier that if you were to start a program, that's one thing that you have to, get out of your own way in some ways.
Yeah, and I think those people that have the resources to start programs like this, a lot of times, like you just said, they're so detached from what reality is now for these kids in those age groups. programs. Like I said, a lot of times the people that have resources may happen to be people who are in their 50s and 60s, and they can't relate to kids who are 10 and 11 that are being bombarded with all this bad programming. You know, that's why it is important that you have these cycle of mentors going through. You have kids that are in middle school, kids that are in high school that have been to the program since 3rd and 4th grade to come back because they're more able to relate to those younger kids. I mean, you just got to think about the programming that these kids get from these pocket computers to TV to movies and to music. And then this stuff is not only pushed into our community, it's pushed to the world that this is how they act. So that gives you another battle once you become older, because everybody is looking at you like you you know what. And that makes it another, we're starting to create battles that we shouldn't even be having anymore. And we have to first recognize that what the powers that be are doing is they're taking the worst of us. They're bottling it up and selling it back to us. And a lot of times just giving it back to us. And so when you have a mentoring program, you need people who understand that. That's why I said you need a nutritionist. You need a psychologist. You know, you need someone in physical health. You need a historian. You need all of these things to balance out your program, because we need so much and for us to work out.
I agree. So we know that there's value in these programs. We know that there's money for these programs. Mm-hmm. Let me throw another element at you that I think would be in a successful program of what we're talking about. You got to do something for the parents. You have to get buy-in from the parents, and two, you have to do something to get them to participate, to make them participate, if you will. Because if you're only mentoring and helping the child, then you're not doing anything for the rest of the family to help change the circumstances. So when you send that kid home after your 4-hour mentoring session or however long it is, they're going right back into that environment that made them what they are and made them in need of a mentor program in the first place.
Yes.
I've done this, I've done my career now for 18 years. I've worked in summer school programs. I've worked for grant-funded programs. And the one thing that I've always said is missing is getting the parents, making the parents have to do something. I'm coming to your house to provide services for you for free, and you're not home. I don't even understand that. You know I'm coming. I'm glad that you trust me, and I'm glad that you trust me in your home with your children. However, I'm here to help your child and support your child. I'm also here to help support you and the family as well. So you got to do something. The parents should have to volunteer, volunteer classes or parenting classes or something, because I feel like we have these great programs and we're just giving it away. We give and give and we give, and we don't require anything of the families. We don't require anything of the parents. And we just go, here you are, here we show up. We're going to do all of these great, amazing things. We're going to take your kids on a field trip every Friday. We're going to come get them. We're going to drive them. We're going to feed them. We're going to pay for everything. And you don't have to do anything. No. When you do that and you get the parents on board and you get them involved, not only do they have buy-in, but they also become your partner to help that child get better. Because you're working with the child, they're getting mental health therapy along with whatever we're doing for the mentoring. They're getting the extra tutoring and the help with school. The parent has to reinforce what we're doing. If the parent isn't reinforcing, and when I say parent, I just mean guardian, whomever. If you're in a parental role where you are taking care of a youth, because I know not everybody's a parent. Oh, that's my niece, that's my nephew, or that's I adopted, whatever. Parent goes, you're a caregiver of a child, you're in that parental role. But we have to stop just making everything so freely available and requiring nothing in return. Because that is another reason why these programs don't become sustainable, because the people that control the funding for a lot of these programs aren't seeing the long-term effects, so they stop putting the money out there. They stop making the grants available because they feel like they're just wasting money and throwing, good money after bad, because they can't see any long-term effects from the program. Like, oh, we did this 12-week program or whatever, and the kids' grades came up in school, and now we leave, we take all of our resources of the program back with us, but we didn't give the parent any tools to sustain what we started. Because even if we did pull out after 6 weeks or 12 weeks or however many weeks, if we gave the parents some really concrete tools, then that child would continue to thrive. If the money for the program ran out or what have you. We got to get the parents, the families, there has to be a piece in it for them, for accountability and for sustainability.
Yeah, because it's about the total village. And that's what it's supposed to be about. But everybody in the village has to be involved in doing what their role, playing their role in the village. Like you said, a parent could do as little as just coming and volunteering or going on some of these trips. Or, they should be studying just like the kids are studying, because a lot of these parents are not educated. And we could all use extra. Who can't use more education? Who can't learn more about financial literacy? Who can't learn more about the role of mentoring, about nutrition, about physical health? Who can't do that? You know what I'm saying? That benefits us all.
Yes.
Now I see 1,000 people on TV the last couple of years complaining that the hospital got torn down, but I don't see any of these people going to the free farmers market or going to these free nutrition classes or going to these free yoga in the parks. Hey,
that is true. Well, I was just thinking too, anytime, and I'm not being judgmental, but I am being judgmental. When I go to the grocery store at the first of the month and I'm behind somebody using an EBT card, no shame in using EBT. That's what it's there for. You need it. Fine. I don't even mind my tax dollars going to it. However, when I'm looking at what's on the belt and the low nutritional value of the foods that you're buying, it's mind-blowing. So that goes back to what you were saying, is learning about nutrition. Maybe if you were buying healthier foods with your EBT card, your child wouldn't have ADHD because they're not having the red dye. They're not exposed to all the extra sugar and all those extra chemicals that cause ADHD and make ADHD worse. So that would be one. Another, positive factor of having better nutrition, you can afford better health care because you wouldn't need to go to the doctor as much because you're taking better care of yourself from the start, thus saving you money from having, to go to the doctor all the time. I know a person that every time she gets sick, she rushes to the ER and then she gets on Facebook and she complains about the bills, but she doesn't take good care of herself. In the meantime, in between time, she eats terribly. She admits to eating terribly. She's always showing pictures of her food from this restaurant or that restaurant. So I'm like, you're eating all of this low vibrational food and you wonder why you're always sick. Well, if we had a mentor program that your child is participating in, your child can even come home and say, hey, Mom, instead of buying, potato chips, why don't we get these apple chips instead? So now when your child is coming home telling you different things that they've learned about healthy eating, then that may intrigue you to go, hey, well, maybe I need to come to this nutrition class too, or maybe I need to find a nutrition class that I can enroll in. Or if that mentor program has that for adults, then you're right there. So now you and your child are learning together better eating habits, which also can become a bonding experience between you and your child as you plan out the menu together. You're actually dialoguing and having real conversations. So many times we yell, scream, and cuss at our children that we forget that they need conversational skills, and they're not learning any conversational skills when you're just yelling at them. But that could be something else that you would learn in the parent piece of the mentoring program that your child is in. So now we're healing the whole family. We're working in context of families. So that can only better our community as a whole in the long run. But we have to do like your mindfulness minute suggested and think more long term. You just don't think long term enough.
Exactly. That is exactly the point. We don't think long term. So give us a self-care assignment for this week. When we're talking about mentoring and all these different things that make mentoring better, what's a good self-care assignment to go along with that?
Do some research. Do research and find a mentor program that's right for you and your family, because they're out there. They're out there. Find a mentor program for you and your family.
Dope. There you have it. Now, before we get out of here, you know we got to get into my favorite part of the show. Brain science. All
right, so we've been talking about mentoring, how to start a program or keep one going, sustainability. So I'm going to give you some key elements that are definitely needed for a successful mentoring program. First things first, planning. You have to have strategic planning, which we just talked about. Strategic purpose and planning. Though this one is common sense, you would think. Determine why your organization is doing a mentoring program and what you want to get out of it. This should be aligned with your organization's mission, vision, goals, values, and overall strategy. You have to embrace it. Get your team on board to embrace it. Everybody has to embrace the vision, the purpose, right? Then continue commitment. This needs to come from various people, from management, employees, external stakeholders, partners, program mentors, and mentees. Support and commitment can lag over time, but new faces and fresh ideas can help the program stay exciting and keep people engaged and committed. Hence the alumni program. You're reaching back. You got so much out of this great program, you're going to reach back and help somebody else to come through the program and get out of it what you got out of it, and possibly more. Who knows? Then you need an intentional program design. Be intentional. What do you want? What elements are most important for this child, for this mentee, for this family to walk away with? And be strategic in pulling those out, right? Next, targeted training. The mentors that you have that are going to be a part of your program must go through training. You cannot just pick people off the street and say, here's some kids, go help them, save them, make them be great. No. They have to be trained so that they, just like the other elements stated, they are in line with the strategic purpose and the mission so that you can reach the overall goal for your mentoring program. Next, you want to promote it. People can't come if they don't know, which, you know, as the king of promotion, Sir Picket Fence, you know all about promotion. Getting the word out, letting people know that this is here and it's available. And then you want to do strong matches. You want to really match people with kids and families that they can be of help to. If you're, you know, picking some person who doesn't have anything in common with this family and you want them to mentor and help this family, that's not going to work. You have to really be strategic in who you match up with who and how it works. I might be a person where I want to be a mentor, but I don't want to mentor 5-year-olds. But I have a friend who's better equipped with that age group. So put that person, you know, with that age group. It just makes more sense that way. Then you want to measure it. You want to make sure that you have good measurable outcomes, as we call them, SMART goals. What are the goals of your mentor program? Are they SMART? Are they measurable? Are they attainable? Are they time sensitive? Can you do, you know, is this something that we can do? Then you have to manage it properly, manage your resources, manage the people, and most certainly manage the money that you're getting that is funding this program, so that if something should happen and you don't get this money again, you've strategically managed that money well enough that some of it can start to be replaced and replenished in other ways. Because most grants, once they run out, that's the end of it and you have to apply for something else. But if you parlay the money the right way and you use it the right way, it can last you longer than whatever the grant time is anyway.
Right.
So You want to also meet ever so often and do a check-in, check-out kind of process. Is this mentor program still meeting the original mission that we set out to do? And if it is not continuing the mission or making the mission better, then you need to go all the way back to step one and start over. That doesn't mean get whole new kids or whole new families. That means you and your team need to get together and start over and go back to what the original mission was. Because when you lose sight of the mission and you lose sight of the goal, you begin to mismanage your resources and then nobody benefits.
Word.
Okay.
I think that wraps it up. that wraps it up. I mean,
I think so.
I think we've given the people a lot to think about when it comes to mentoring, and I hope that, like the self-care assignment says, you go out and research a mentor that is good for your family. And one thing we didn't say, but we kind of said around it, is mentoring isn't just for kids. Mentoring can be for anything that you want in life. If you, like you said earlier, if you're starting a business, get a business mentor. If you're trying to start a diet, get a diet mentor. You know, get a mentor that is right for you, your family, and your lifestyle. And that's our show for this week. You know, you can find us wherever you find your favorite podcasts. But make sure you go to Facebook and like on the page and share those daily self-care assignments. And leave us some comments too. We want to know what you think about the daily self-care assignments. It's your boy Picket Fence.
I'm your girl, Lady Bounce.
We out of here. Peace.